Karl Johan is an experienced project manager, a leader and trainer who has worked with projects and companies from 4 different continents. With his experience and skills, he has helped numerous companies and change and development processes to enhance their efficiency and performance. He believes in collaboration and sharing so that everybody can achieve great results by working together towards common goals. Karl, welcome to the conference. Stage is yours for next 20 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mariana. So I will go over and get my screen going. So welcome, everyone. I'm very much looking forward to taking you through a short journey through the challenges and solutions in international business. I have quite a lot of things that we want to cover today, so we'll dive straight into it. So first, this is a map of the world as to where I have been doing some sort of business. The bigger projects are marked with the yellow dots. The only point of this one is to show that I do have experience from quite a variety of continents, and that my experiences there is definitely what I take back into this masterclass. So going internationally. It is a very expensive endeavor, especially if you're doing with a physical location and you are going to be there not only just digitally. So you really need to focus on why do you want to go internationally? Why do you really want to go? There can be many reasons, but you need to sit down and actually think about this before you go, because it will cost you both time and money. There are several reasons, as I said. Maybe the reason is that your whole market is suddenly getting too small. You're growing as a company and you need to expand just to keep your business going. Or maybe you're making a product that is no longer needed in your home market. This was an example in Norway many years ago, where we had a lot of companies working in the electrical market. Once the electrical grid in Norway was finished building, then everything was done, and the companies had no more market at home, so they had to go abroad. Maybe your customers are abroad, and the customers are also not able to source the products that you have from local suppliers. That's another good reason to go abroad, and then again, maybe consider going with a physical locations. Talent, maybe you have to go abroad to find talent that you don't find enough employees of the people you need to do your stuff, so you have to go abroad. And we're seeing this with more and more companies that are sourcing employees from all over the world. And maybe you have an expertise that it's only you that is able to deliver out. There's many examples of certain expertise that's being built up within companies and countries that are now a huge export potential. And finally, maybe you have a competitive advantage coming from your country, that your country has a relationship with the countries that you want to go internationally. That gives you an advantage when you are dealing with those people. So again, before you go and consider going internationally, do look at your country's relationships with other countries and see if there's something there you can tap in on. So challenges. There are definitely more challenges than there are solutions, and the one that really tips this here is the fact that you are a foreigner. During the next couple of slides, we will look at culture and diversity, presence and face time, and groups versus tribes. If there is one thing I want you to take away from this session, is that you need to remember that you are a guest wherever you go. And by that is that even if I go from my home country, which is Norway, over to Sweden, which is my neighboring country, and we have quite similar cultures, there are quite some substantial differences right away. Norway, we are a shipping nation, so we are used to being by ourselves. We have to find all our own solutions. Sweden is more inland. They have farmers, they have a feudal system, so they are much more used to working in bigger groups and following consensus. And just being in a business meeting with Norwegians and Swedes, we have to adjust to each other cultures. And especially if the further away you go from home, the more you have to remember that you are a guest. You are the guest. You cannot expect that the people in the country you're going to will know how your culture is. You are the one that has to adapt. So let's move over to culture versus diversity. There are many differences in cultures. A couple that I picked out that I find that it really impacts business when I go international is the priorities. That means the priorities of the people that you are going to see, and also the priorities of the country that you're in. The next one is how people interact together. How do they actually, meet each other? How do they, conduct their meetings, that type of stuff. And communication. How much of the real story do you hear? Again, I'm from a country where we're used to being quite direct and frank. That may not be the place when you go internationally. So try to consider how people when are actually communicating and what they're saying when you go abroad. You may be hearing something completely different than what you would normally hear when you're at home. An important thing, how do you get trust? Again, you're a foreigner, you're a guest, automatically you do not have trust. So you have to build this in some sort of way. And for businesses and negotiations, that's a crucial thing. Negotiations are done differently in different countries and also in different regions of the countries. I know that the problem that we as Norwegians have when we go abroad is that we try to go, when we go out, we go with the pricings and the terms unfairly close to where we want to end. When we go to countries that are used to having a very tough negotiation culture, where you have to drop your price 5 to 20, maybe even more percent, then we have a problem because we don't have that to go on, because we gave already a price that we thought would be close to where we would end up. And another thing that you always will see when you go abroad is that there will be people wanting to take advantage of you and your situation as a foreigner that doesn't know the in and outs of the business in that country, and they will try to exploit that. So one thing that I find that when I'm looking at the solutions to this is that people have different priorities. I have the benefit of working a lot in Africa, and I find that family is very important there. So I need to consider that they put family maybe even before me as an employer when I work with the people down there. And I need to turn this around in my head and look at, okay, family is important, okay? So if I allow them, to make sure that they can provide for their family and, make sure that their kids gets to go to school, that type of stuff, then you can really talk business. It's like you have to figure out how to do your discussions, and then goes to interactions, how they talk together. Again, when I worked in Ghana, they had a special handshake. You had to shake hands, then you had to go up, and then you had to flick your fingers. And that was kind of the test to see if were you part of the in gang, did you know how things were going on? It took me a year to get this in, but you have to try to observe how people are going together. And this is just one small detail, but an important one. I had the benefit of working, abroad from entry level and all the way up to being the managing director. And I found that as I moved up the hierarchy, I got to know less and less of what was really going on in the business. And the reason for that was that people, always gave me the polite answer. They didn't want to, really shake up the terms. They wanted to, protect their own position in the company. So I needed to find a way to actually get to the information that was going on. I needed to work with the middle management and actually get the real information coming in, so we together could work as a team. Yeah, going abroad, again, you are at a disadvantage because you're the foreigner, you're the alien coming in, so people don't really trust you before they know why you're here and that you actually have good intentions, if you have good intentions. So I choose to always play with open cards. I tell them why I'm here, what we're going for. Normally a business wants some profit, but also then you normally want other things to work. What are the reasons or your motivations from going internationally, and play with them with open cards again to show them your hand so you figure out how things are going. Yes, negotiations. Figure out how the negotiations are being conducted in the countries you're going to. And that can also differ from region to region in the same country. And try to talk to locals or that have been there for a long time to figure out how it's done. Corruption. This is a big one. I mean, we had several cases, and Enron being one of them. So we got the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, that type of stuff. And I've experienced it myself too. And I was provided or was given a situation where I had to say no to business because I couldn't, based on corruption, I was not allowed to do that. And I knew that maybe meant that I had to close operations. And for me as an individual, that's an extremely difficult decision to take. For anyone out there in the world, it's difficult to take that decision if you're standing alone. So I was lucky. We had already established a good code of business conduct in the company I was working for. And I actually had a pamphlet I could pull up and look and say, well, is this action according to our code of conduct? No, it's not. So I could go out and I could say no to the proposal that was put on my table with good conscience and without being worried of going against the company. Actually, I went for the company and protected the company by saying no. So do go back and consider a really good code of conduct before you go abroad, so you have something with you, so you know how to make choices when you get into difficult situations. And this is in JCI, we are lucky because we have our values and we have our creed, so you can always lean back on when we get into difficult situations. This will be the same. What is the values and your code of conduct in your company? This will really help you when times gets tough, because they will. Yes, presence versus FaceTime. This is interesting. The picture you see here is a concrete batching plant. I built 3 of them in a year in Africa, and I traveled there twice. So again, you need to build trust with the people you are around. I mean, you see trust comes back and back here. And the way you do that is to be present in the country. You have to be there. You need to be able to see the people you're working with. You need to see your suppliers. You need to see your customers. You need to see everyone. And this requires intensive travels. Later on for the same project, I traveled down weekly to Africa just to be present. So I have my hours in the plane. But you can also look for another alternative, which I highly recommend, is to find a local representative, someone that can buy into your company, your values, and your thoughts, that can be on the ground and be your face towards everyone. And you need to trust this person 100%. And there's 2 ways to go here. You can find a local person, someone that's from the country you're going to, that again really buys into your company. And what I have had great success with, and this is especially if the projects or companies you're working with are getting big, I am finding a person from my country that has already lived in the country for preferably 10 plus years. That means that they know the business, they know the culture, they know all that type of stuff, and they are already there to be able to navigate in the market you're in, and they speak your culture as well. So it means that I can have very quick phone conversations with the people that are working for me in the country, working with me, and we can sort things out fast. And that's how I managed to build these 3 batching plants in 1 year with only 2 visits, because I could really trust my local representative to handle everything. It gave me a budget savings of 62%. So this is a good choice. And again, have very clear mandates to the people you're working with as to what they're allowed to do and what they're allowed to negotiate. So they're actually free to go out there to do things. And the point here, they need to be free to be able to go out and solve things. Not that you restrict them with a limited mandate, but you need to give them a mandate and responsibility what they can do. Groups versus tribes. When you're working internationally, you're not going to be able to be there 100% unless you actually move. So you need to move from management and micromanagement up to an inspirational leadership level. So you really need to be able to work with your team to create them to or enable them to be able to lead themselves. You need to build engagement with your team. They need to be engaged in your purpose. Why are you there? What are you trying to make? Are you just trying to milk money out? If that's the case, engagement is probably more difficult to get unless you also give them money. But you can also go international too, because you're actually trying to create something bigger and better and cooler. So get the engagement in your people. Find the right people and work with them. I mean, these are the ones that will really make your company and your international success a success. Give them clear responsibility and give them the full responsibility so they can actually go out and create things and do the things that they want to do, trusting that you have their back. If things go bad, you will protect them and you will say, yep, I trusted these people so they can do it, but they also have the responsibility to deliver on their goals that they have set. Do take time to celebrate your successes. This is very difficult, easy to forget when you're working remotely. But if you manage to sign a contract or manage to complete some sort of or a milestone, do celebrate them. Make sure to send that extra email congratulating them. Send them out for a dinner. Try to bring something. And next time you do visit physically, do celebrate together. Today in this virtual world, maybe have a Friday celebration in the afternoon. Do something to do it. And again, play with open cards. You really need to show why you're there and what you want to achieve so they know why you're there. The moment you start to work behind closed doors and trying to keep secrets, you will immediately lose the trust with the people you have there, and you will have a long ways to go unless you go to more old-fashioned and harder tools to get to where you want to go. I have the picture of the tribal leadership book up on the side. I really recommend you to read this and trying to understand how it's going, to see how you can maybe set up your company to have good tribes in several locations, and then those tribes together make sure that your company succeed. So instead of having teams at different places or groups at different places that are fighting, have tribes that are all self-sustainable, proud of what they're doing. They find that they and we are good and we can really achieve a lot together. Whew. That was my quick things. Please do connect with me on LinkedIn or send me an email. If you do connect me on LinkedIn, please also write a message as to where you met me so I know who or how you found my contacts. And I would love to hear some questions now at the end.
Karl, thank you very much for very interesting presentation. It was a pleasure to learn all the tips you made, and I think that it was very useful for all our participants and audience. So the first question would be, have you ever faced any cultural different situation which you could not solve? And if you face this situation in nowadays, would you have done differently to have it solved?
What do you mean by cultural problem that was not solvable?
Well, working with the teams abroad on one of the continents where you have work experience.
Okay, let's take the example we had of our project that we did together in St. Petersburg.
Okay.
And we had, your Russian public holiday, and we had, the hotel canceling right away. Yes, we had differences in cultures and we had things to figure out, and I got to know what the Russian dacha was. But it's instead just to go together and, figure out, okay, where do you actually want to go? So go back to your values. It's like, why are you here? What do you really want to achieve? And then you're normally able to sit down and negotiate, or not negotiate, discuss how to find a solution. The same thing, negotiating with Americans can be another very tough one, and they are very often monetary driven. and we are more like we really want to collaborate. With time and with discussions, you can normally overcome most of the things. And that's maybe a last tip is that beer you have during the dinner after your meetings, that's when the actual meeting is happening. You do need that social time together, because and this is back to this FaceTime thing, you need to know the people that you're working with, because you will find problems at some point in time, and you are not going to be able to solve those unless you are already friends and know each other. So spend the time, do go out to the bar, take the time to discuss. And that's probably the biggest disadvantage with the digital world we're in today, is that you don't get those social interactions in the afternoon where the real meetings are happening.
Yes, I do agree. Hanging up is very important. And maybe I have time for one more question. You were speaking about adaptability, but we know that all people are different. For some of them, it's easier to adapt themselves. For others, it's not that easy. And what would be your tips for those who are not that easygoing to adapt themselves for the new conditions, how they can develop adaptability in themselves?
For you as then an inspirational leader, it goes back to finding the engagement and the buy-in from the people that you're working with. So you have to go back to finding out, okay, what is the cause? What is the common goal of the group? So we can all spend time finding it. And again, going internationally from me, especially if you're coming as a big company and you have the power, and let's say you're Coca-Cola, we know how to do business. We have always done this, and you go in, you follow these rules, and then you will have success. That doesn't work. You need to spend time. Maybe you have your roadmap ready, but you need to allow the people that you are working with to be part of creating that roadmap. So you need to go back. You need to do all the leadership things that we all learned in JCI, and establish, okay, the framework. Where is that goal? Where do you want to go? Again, back to the values where we're coming from. Why are we here? What we want to create, and then, going that way. Then suddenly the people maybe don't have to adapt so much, because they already created the path that they want to go on themselves.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like making it easy.
Great. Thank you very much, Karl, for your presentation, for answering the questions, and for participating in the conference.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, and looking forward to connecting with you guys.
Okay. See you.